welcome to Surrender School.
All right, so today we are covering step 9, and so if you had a chance to see the video, then we covered a lot of information in the video. I was in a fugue state at that time. I don't even remember what I covered, but I went back and watched it. So there's a lot of information in there, and I'm hoping that we get it, that everybody who had either questions about it or comments on it, because there was some kind of at least for me, a new perspective on step 9 in the middle of all that. Okay. Once again, the goal of this class is a personal journey. It is not intended to teach you the Enneagram, although it might be a side benefit. And it's intended to help you recognize the wonderful person that you are so you can relax into your true self, where the God of your understanding resides, or at least touches you. How we do that is we recognize the unseen forces that drive our behaviors, and sometimes without us even being aware of them. The passions, or in 12 steps, sometimes they call them the defects and the fixations, or the stories we tell ourselves. The way we do that is by catching ourselves in the act, the act of things where ego causes us to act out our persistent defects, and then to gently remind us to return to our true shining self. So this whole course, actually Surrender School itself, is all about loving yourself so that you can love others, which really is what we're running from when we're in our addiction. So, okay. Something to keep in mind, the 3 books that I talk about and that we will be talking about even all the time: The Alchemy of the Enneagram for Transforming Addiction, The Enneagram for Recovery by Jenner Kay, and then The Wisdom of the Enneagram, which some people call the Bible of the Enneagram, because it's been around a long time, has lots of really good information in it. It might be the book that we read when we're finished with the emotional sobriety book, if that happens, since we read a page at a time and it's 300 pages long or something. We'll see. Anyway, so some things to keep in mind. I'm not an expert on anything. Recovery is a process, not an event. Self-contempt stops spiritual growth. If you find yourself being contemptuous of yourself, just realize that makes it very, very difficult to grow spiritually during that period of time. We have office hours and reading rooms, and all of it is on this same meeting number. So if you ever have problems getting in, this is it, 852-9962-5735. And if somebody asks, I don't usually remember all the numbers, but I remember the last 4. So I'll say it's the 5735 meeting. Okay. And then remember the Surrender School, everything at Surrender School is on this number now. It's a super easy way. I think a lot of people got confused because it's like, no, it's this one. No, it's that one. And now we all show up at the same place, which is awesome. And then keep in mind the book study for The Alchemy of the Enneagram and Transforming Addiction. Book study is Monday at 10:30 a.m. at this Zoom. And Michael Naylor will be covering chapter 1 of his book, which I'm very excited about. So I would really recommend that you read chapter 1 and come with questions about, so keep in mind, so Michael Naylor has like 30 years of counseling, like as a professional addiction counselor under his belt with eyes through the Enneagram. So any questions you have about, I think my husband is a 1, I think my daughter is a 1, I think my best friend is a 1, how as me as a 4, in case as an 8, what's the best way for that kind of question? What's the best way to deal? Because I can guarantee you he would love to answer questions like that. I'm going to write down a bunch of them from me too. And then, he loves to answer questions during the session. So let's make sure we get him some questions. That would be cool. All right. 2-minute shares on last week's assignment. So I have to say, I don't usually laugh at myself, but when I said no day is bad when it has a picture of Aragorn in it, right? And I really believe it. Made me laugh. I didn't remember saying that, but it made me laugh. Okay. So, and that was about, you need to own it before you can release it, is what that picture was about. You have to own it before you can release it. And then another big chunk of what we had out there were all of the these harmonic groups. And I think the harmonic groups are interesting. So let me talk for a second about why I introduced the harmonic groups at this stage of the game. Mostly because most of us have an idea of what our number is, and what this does is helps to lock it in. If you feel like I might be a 9 or I might be a 6, the harmonic group tells you, right, that the positive outlook group basically turns they basically turn everything into a positive outlook on it whenever. And by the way, this is all about if you don't get what you want, if something happens that you're disappointed, right? You don't get what you wanted, and sometimes big stuff, sometimes little stuff. How do you react to it? Do you have a positive outlook? Do you basically get to work? That's the competence people, or are you reactive? Right. And I often say I have nothing in common with fours and sixes, but that's not true because we're all part of the harmonic group, the reactive group, 4, 6, and 8. So I do have something in common with them, which when I say the words, I understand fours because they're always too much, that kind of thing, or sixes confuse me, but right. And this tells me I'm part of the same harmonic group as them, which means I react similarly. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I want to bring this up real quick with all the big enough for people to see. And then what I want to do is, once again, you can share on the how do you own it in order to release it, or you can share in the harmonics groups. But I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here and just see if anybody has any insights that you had. We're going to be talking about step 9 insights here in a minute. Right now, I want to talk about, if we can, I want to talk about these harmonic groups and or owning it to release it. For me, the harmonics are nice because it really almost more than anything is the thing that lets me go, oh, I'm wired this way. So when I am disappointed, because everybody has disappointments, life includes disappointments, right? But if I know that so much of my reaction, right? And reactive is almost like radioactive. It's like reactive, sixes, 4, 6, and 8s, right? And what I react to, right, is what I seek is self-reliance. What I fear is being controlled. Just ask any boss I have ever worked for, ever worked for. I was a great employee until they told me what to do. If they were, I mean, I know that sounds awful, doesn't it? I would hate to have an employee like that. Anyway, but so the ones I loved working for would just say, "Hey, there's the mountain, go take it. I don't give a fuck how you do it, just go do it." And I was great, man. Me and my team, right? We took the mountain. Um, but yeah, but whenever, and my reaction, absolutely, the way that I dealt with others when they would try to tell me what to do is my guard up. I'm tough. I'm in your face. I'm right. Just, oh my God, everything I don't want to be, I am, right? So I love the harmonics. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to cover that information for those that didn't get a chance to see the video, because not everybody did. And I want to add a little bit more flavor to it than I have in the past. So let me give a little bit of background here. Um, so step 9, most people think step 9 is, overtly humbling and it makes you super uncomfortable, which I guess it does. But I also think one of the things that happens is that once you've done a step 9, you feel better, regardless of the levels I'm going to talk about. You feel better just because you've done something in the direction of recovery, which I think is very good. But one of the things that's been coming up for me here lately is this idea that there are basically levels in our levels of recovery, come different levels of step 9, which is making amends to other people. There are different levels to that. And it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong if you do it at the first level. It just means that that's where your recovery's at, is there. And so what I want to talk about is the very first level of the very first level that we hit is some part of me still blames them, whoever they are, right? Somebody did something to me. I resented it. They're on my resentment list. Okay, now I'm going to make an amends to them. Some part inside my heart does still blame them, but I have to set that aside because I need to do a step 9. I don't relish the idea of doing it, but I must do it because that's part of my recovery. I have to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that I'm moving forward in that, and it's the most I can do at the time. A lot of people will stop because they feel like their heart has to be open, and it doesn't. What you need to do is make amends to them. You need to do that. That is step 9. You have to do that. You set aside the fact, any idea at all, that there's still even a touch of blame on them, and you go for it. Once again, with the guidance of your sponsor. And I remember early on, this is what I did. because mine was always I got in somebody's face and I would apologize and do whatever. And, maybe they had, and this was usually at business. I didn't treat my family badly, but people in business, and I would apologize to them. Okay, so that's the first level. And that what that tells me is if that's the best I can do, it's the best I can do. And that's all that I can do is the best I can do. I can't do better than that until I grow. And as you grow and become more spiritual, what happens, right, is, and by the way, that first one includes the fact that I'm expecting an acknowledgement of some sort back. Okay, I forgive you, or something, right? It's immature spiritually to expect that, but we kind of do it first. Okay, this next one, I do it to clean up my side of the street. It's time for me to move past this. I'm tired of keeping this on my resentment list. And the only way that I can fix that and make it to where it doesn't stay on my resentment list is it is irrelevant what their reaction is. If their reaction is, I will always hate you for that, I can't do anything more than what I've done. Right. And that's that next level. I do this to clean up my side of the street. It's time. I have to move past this or it's going to haunt me the rest of my life. Their response is irrelevant to me. And then I go and talk to them. I make amends to them. Right. But their response is irrelevant. And by the way, no one who first comes into program can really feel that their response is irrelevant. You just can't. You just can't. I mean, you're not even capable of doing that early in the program. Okay. And then the third one is when I do this, the realization, and this is new to me, I've been in 20 years and this is new to me, that not only does this bless me and let me release it, because the goal of this is for me to release it and not drag it with me the rest of my fucking life, right? But the beauty of it is it blesses them because they know that they are worthy. It's what Melissa and Helen both were talking about. There's this sense that, oh, I guess I matter to them because they have been haunted by their treatment of me, which then makes me know that I matter. So it may, in doing this, heal them. It may absolutely heal them. All right. So, and this is the way, by the way, the sequence that it works in. I'm sorry about the times whatever I did, I'll try to do better. Right. That's basically what you're saying at that first level. The next level is you're going to be more specific. Use the character defect list that is out on Surrender School. I was selfish when I did whatever. I will do better in the future. All right. The third one, I was from the fourth step stuff that's out there, like I think the example I gave were the nines. I was procrastinating. I was whatever, an eight. I was obnoxious. No, I don't know. I don't think obnoxious was one of the choices, but I was, right? When I did whatever, I will do better in the future, right? Okay. And then we did this little guess, I think, on all of these. But what I want to talk about, right? Those are the ones that were there. Okay. Is when I say I will do better in the future, we're going to add one more piece to it. I was self-absorbed is a four. I know a four set uses that, right? That was up above. I was self-absorbed when I did whatever. I deeply regret it. How do I make it right? That is of all when I first heard that, somebody said, how do I make it right? I think, Joy, that was like the original Surrender School, right? How do I make it right? And if you remember, I said to you, I don't care how they think I can make it right. I don't care. I don't even want to know about that. I don't care about that at all, right? Well, of course, now I do care because I want to make it right. Not just right for me, I also want to make it right for them, right? So that is the structure always that I do on a step 9 or the step 10 when I'm making the amends right then because I live clean. And okay, whoa, that was selfish of me to say that. I'm very, very sorry. I'm really sorry that I did that. How do I make that right to you? And usually like, yeah, don't worry about it, right? Whatever that is, especially when it's right then because they haven't had a chance to ruminate over it either. And then the final piece that I talk about is the same thing, except this time the whole point of that is to reconnect that relationship and that feeling that you get. And here's what I believe with all my heart. So, Melissa, I'm going to refer back to your thing, the text that you got. If that was half-hearted, you would have felt it was half-hearted. But we also pick up because any kind of communication, because we're souls and communication soul to soul, you can feel if it's meant. So if you can feel that because you want to reconnect with this person and you really, really own whatever it is that you have done, that is how recovery happens. Okay, so now I'm going to come back out here. And I jumped to this because it seems to be what everybody wants to talk about. So let's talk about that. We'll come back to harmonics if we need to. So if anybody wants to share on any of this stuff, please do. I think most of us are in a 12-step in some sort. So if you want to share, a successful or unsuccessful, I guess, whatever. A step 9 that freed you is like the coolest thing for us to hear. Please feel free. How can I be appropriate for the audience and not lose myself? I still keep myself, but I can be appropriate for the audience. And that is, oh man, that is that's the solution to so many things. The stepping on their toes that Bill W. talks about. We step on their toes and then go, why are they upset with me? Right? Because we don't even see it. That's our blind spots, right? The shadow that we do not see in our personality. But this is an 8 response before they hung up, like the first time, I'm not ready to hear that right now or whatever, I would have just said, okay, I'm going to check it off as if it's done because I've tried to make amends and you're not ready. And that's fine. When you're ready, come back to me and we'll talk about it. And then it's off my list. They're going to have to come back to me because with all my heart, I wanted to do that and couldn't. Right. And it's okay. And maybe they're in a space where they can't hear it right now, but I'm not going to leave it on my fucking list for 18 years until they're ready. I can't do that. So it's done. It's done. I tried to make my amends. They wouldn't listen. That's no different. Now, maybe I'm making excuses, but that feels no different than if I'd made them and they said, I don't forgive you. Okay, fine. Doesn't matter. I tried to make amends. You said no. Good. Okay. That will no longer be on my resentment list because I've done everything I can do up till now. But I'm not going to leave it out there pending. That's because to me, that's what kills me are this unresolved shit that I can't resolve. Right. So maybe the answer then is you say, okay, even if you don't tell them to you write it up, set it aside, it's done. When that person is ready to come back, you can read that letter to them, but you don't carry it with you because recovery for us means that we own it to release it. It's why we own it is so that we can release it. I'm going to say that again. We own it to release it. We don't own it so we can drag that bag of crap with us forever. We own it so that we can release it. It's the only reason we own it, so we can release it. And that's what you have to do. Even in a case like that, release it. And I think because force do, actually all of us in some form or other, it ends up being about us. There's something I did wrong, something I should, you know what? No, we do our best. That's what we do. And we love ourselves through it. I think that exercise that says, am I in the wrong here? That is even though it's a horrible feeling, it's a hell of a lot better than I'm never in the wrong. It's always someone else, right? So it does, but if it's momentary and then I deal with it, that's great. It's when I carry it around for decades. That's when we can't do that, right? I think self-examination is good, but it's just a quick, okay, I tried to do this really with all my heart. I tried, couldn't. Okay, I'm going to write a letter, set it aside. That's perfect. Thank you. And I'm glad that you're in a peaceful place about that. Because some of the times what happens is we don't realize we even have expectations at all, right? But I think, right, in sending that to your father, you expected something different or more relevant or more something than, yeah, I forgive you too. What? Right? So in the emotional sobriety book that we're studying, there's a line that says, expectations are resentments under construction. Right. Yeah. So they're not quite constructed yet, but there's some, and I don't think we can live without having expectations. So it's not, I mean, maybe Mother Teresa did, I don't know, but it's like, so it's really hard. But think about that. In a day, you went from mad about it to laughing about it because it's like, oh, people are human. Right. And that is true forgiveness because he does the best he can, even if it sucks. Right. He's doing the best he can with what he knows at this moment. He's doing the best he can. Maybe it sucks. Oh, there's nothing you can do about it because we cannot change other people at all ever, right? So good for you. I'm proud of you. That's awesome. Some of it is in the emotional sobriety and some is in the Gender K book, but it talks about percentages because all of us are mean sometimes. We just are. I don't care who you are. There's times it's your brand of mean, your type according to your type, but all of us are. And so I think what growth looks like is the percentage is lower than it used to be, right? I used to be mean 50% of the time, and now I'm mean 2% of the time, right? But there is a percentage. And to me, that allows me then to own that I can be mean and that there is growth. I can see both. That it might seem like a paradox, but I can see both. So one of the things that I do is like when I'm completely refusing to see something like that because it's harmful to us. It hurts us. And especially with 4s as sensitive they are, I'm sure it hurts. So it's like, okay, right. can I own that specific behavior with that specific child? Maybe it was misunderstood. I don't know, but whatever it is, okay. But in my growth, right, what is perceived as mean, whether it was or not, somebody perceived it that way, right? What percentage of the time am I like that now? Right. If you don't like your job, probably more than you want to be, right? I mean, that's just human nature. So this isn't an indictment at all. But it's like, I know with me, I had lots of jobs throughout my life. And when I loved my job, I was fun to work with, fun to have work for them. I was fun, right? When I did not like my job, my husband used to say, when Cheryl ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And I tell you, they were not happy when I did not like my job. So it's very difficult to show up as a positive force when you're unhappy. It just is. That's a human thing too. And it's especially true of the four. So I do think maybe look at a percentage, what percentage of, rather than saying I'm never mean, just say what percentage now. And what you'll see is there is growth. The way you were in the past, at least this is true for me, the way I was in the past and where I am now, right? My percentages are so much better. But it doesn't mean that I'm always perfect. But the cool part is I'm not supposed to always be perfect. I'm supposed to be human because I'm human. I get to be perfect when I'm in heaven. Right now, I'm not perfect, which means I make mistakes and it means I do things wrong. And okay, I'll own it. That's fine. Yes, I do things wrong. Yes, right. Was I a little ray of sunshine? No, I wasn't. Whatever, right? Whatever that is. And I do think because that, and once again, we own it to release it. We own it to be able to release it because we cannot release it if we do not own it. And you own it like a hot potato. You own it fast and then you release it. Right. I think that's just, it's such a healthy thing. And none of us do this before a program. We just don't. We spend our entire life rejecting it and trying to not own it because we do not understand that we own it to be able to release it because you can't release it if you don't own it. That seems so fucking counterproductive. It seems absolutely not true. And it is 100% true. Okay. I'll get off my soapbox now. Well, and I tell you, the emotion that I felt when you said that about how did that make you feel, I'm like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know how they felt. What? Right? It's like, but yes, I do. Right? I do want to know. Oh, some part of me wants to know that. But yeah, I love that. I don't know that I would have the courage to do that, but I do remember I gave an amends. I had a department that I grew. Somebody else, I then was promoted. Someone else took that department over, destroyed it basically. And then they put me back in charge of that department. And I was so mean to the person that destroyed it. I was so mean. And so years later, I was in Colorado Springs and went to lunch with friends. And she was one of the friends that came. And she and I were always friendly. And I said, hey, I owe you an amends. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, what did you do? She didn't remember. And in that moment, I realized, Cheryl, you're not that important. Right? I thought I had ruined someone's life and I'm not that important. So, but everything in me wanted to explain and go over it again so she understood and I'm like, no, no. I mean, was she being nice? Maybe, but she seemed sincere that she truly didn't remember it. I'm like, she probably was just so happy that the department was off her shoulders because it was a pain in the ass, right? So, but I don't know. It's like, Cheryl, you're not that important. But I think my husband would look at me like I was insane if I said to him, how did that make you feel? He's a 5. How did that make you feel when I did that? I think he'd be like, what did you do with my wife? So that is a lovely way to think about it. That absolutely is. And I think with 9 so much, right? It's like, and I have a 9 wing, and I do think my strong wing is my 9 wing because I'm also completely capable of disappearing for like a day at a time. Completely. I mean, I'm still physically here, but it's like I disappear from even the people that I'm in the room with. I'm just not really present. And so the work that I'm doing right now, and in order for me to do anything, I call it holy work because this is in service to my higher power. Because otherwise, I mean, I'm wasting my time, which is the 8 part of me, right? But the 9 part says, okay, can you be present? Can you physically, like, can you feel your feet on the floor? Be present. Shake the hand, not have it shook, right? Like that, to be present because I am talented at not being present. I'm right. I can check out with the best of them. And that's something. As a matter of fact, I talked to Michael Naylor and he said, maybe you are a 9. And I'm like, no, I look at all this other stuff and my reactivity and all that shit. I'm definitely an 8, but I think I have a very strong 9 wing because when the 9s are talking, man, my little ears perk up and I'm like, yeah, I do that. Yeah, I do that. That is not true with a lot of the other types. But man, I'm telling you, with the nines, I can lean into that big time. So I've never doubted that my presence mattered. Matter of fact, I thought my presence was like the most important thing in the room. So I don't. So yes, schizophrenia is a part. No, I get that. If you all get a chance, be sure to read chapter 4 before Monday, and please come because we get to learn about the one. Even if you're not a one, you almost always have to deal with ones. You're right there. There's somebody in your life that's a one, and I'm feeling such compassion. This is shocking to Joy, who's a dear friend of mine. Right? I'm being compassionate to the ones. How did that happen? I feel compassion for them. Oh, okay. When I talk about you have to own it to release it, it's like you own it and tied to what you're saying. It's like I really, first of all, congratulations for not pursuing that because it's like when it would hurt others, we don't do it. Right. So and then you talk to a sponsor, a really seasoned sponsor who will say, you don't know that she knows. Maybe that isn't something you say, right? So, and there's so much unsaid. And these are like we are wrecking balls that are bamming into each other. And then when we show up real, sometimes it doesn't even require words, right? So almost the words are for us to be able to own it, to be able to say. Now, the other thing that I want to say is what allows me to release it is the absolute belief, and this comes from my higher power, that I did the best I could with what I was feeling and what I knew at the time. I did the best I could. I was not capable of doing better than that, right? So your little wounded heart when you were 16 or whatever, right? Did you do the right thing? Probably not, but you did the best you could with what you knew and how you felt at the time, right? And then that's what life is about. Then we look back and go, yeah, that was the best I could have done at the time. It sucked and it was a bad decision, but that was the best I could do at the time, which means now that I've owned that I did it, I can let it go. It's the only way to let it go. And forgive means to let go, right? The origins of that statement is to let go. So we let go of her role in your junior high shit, and we let go of my role in what I did when I was 16 because we were all just right little girls walking each other home. That's all we are, and we did the best we could at the time. I would not do it now. I can own it and let go of it, and then it doesn't haunt us. What you're talking about with your cousin, right, is that last deep level that I'm talking about, where they are healed because they know they matter, right? It's such a beautiful thing. And the step 9, it becomes something so much more important. And one thing I want to say about your brother, so good that you reached out to him. There's a play that I was in college called I Never Sang for My Father, and the play starts with the line, death ends a life but it does not end a relationship, which struggles on in the survivor's mind towards some final resolution which perhaps it never finds. And that is so heartbreaking when you can't talk to them or don't talk to them when they're alive, right? And so that the blessings to you to be able to know, Cheryl, that you did call him, that you did as much as you could to reach out to them. Oh, because I'm telling you, there's so many people. I'm old enough that there's so many people in my life that have died that I struggle toward that final resolution in some form, and it's so much more blessed when you can do it when they're alive. So much more. And when I was first in program, I remember there was someone I owed an amends to, and I actually hoped she was dead. So I didn't, which is shows you how early in recovery I was, because I was like, oh my God, I hope she's dead, so I don't have to actually talk to her, right? But anyway, she, I could never get a hold of her. I don't know if she was dead or not, but I don't hope that of anyone anymore. So anyway, um, so I'm going to tell a story real quick of an amends that I not for I did. So I think this is tied to what was said a minute ago about it's about the person that was harmed as opposed to even the act. So my father was dying of cancer and he wanted to die at home. So we had hospice teach us what to do for about 6 days we took care of him at his home, which was the most beautiful and most horrible thing I've ever had to do in my life. But it was very much a blessing to care for him at the end. And so one of my aunts wasn't allowed to come see him. My dad's wife determined that she didn't want anyone to visit him. He would have loved to have visitors, I think, but she decided, and he told me, you're the guard dog. Do whatever Linda wants. So we did. And one of my aunts was just brokenhearted that she couldn't come see him. And I felt really bad about that. So I bought rings for all of us that had just, they were really beautiful. And my dad's name was Paul Wilde. And I said, for the beloved women of Paul Wilde, and I gave them each a ring that matched, right? That's what I did. Well, unbeknownst to me, another aunt, his other sister, right, felt hurt by that because she didn't get a ring. She didn't, I mean, I wasn't even considering her because wasn't about his sisters. It was about the women that, anyway, you know what I'm saying. This was, I thought, a kind thing to do. But in the end, this aunt was very hurt. And I heard about it years later. She said something like, well, you've never liked me anyway. And I'm like, I don't, what? And she said, well, you gave everybody else a ring, but you didn't give me one. And I felt so bad because it was just thoughtlessness. It wasn't, I mean, no vindictive anything. I like completely, right? But absolutely, I owed her amends, and it wasn't because of some bitchy thing I did. It was because it was thoughtless. I didn't even think about it. So anyway, I couldn't find the same ring, so a different ring, and I sent it to her. She must be a 12 stepper. She's not part of my life, but she must be a 12 stepper because I said, I owe you an amends for that. We did all the stuff that I did, sent her the ring. And when she got the ring, she called me and said, I forgive you. And that felt like balm for my soul because, and that was, I mean, because I'm a forward pushing person. So usually that's, that's how I, right, mess up in the world. But thoughtlessness isn't, well, who knows? Maybe I'll discover thoughtless is one of the things I do all the time. I don't know. Maybe it's a blind spot. But in that particular case, I do think I owed an amends because, but not because of something I did. It's because of, oh, which is 7, right? Where I fell short. I asked God to remove. That's where I fell short. That is 7, right? So to me, step 6 is become willing on those things, basically, right? Those defenses where I defend myself, which is what I usually do. 7 is where I've fallen short. These are my shortcomings. I fell short there, and I did owe an amends for that, right? And I'm glad she forgave me. It wasn't necessary, but I'm really glad she did. So anyway, I'm telling you, these times where 5 comes alive, right? 6 becomes alive, 7 becomes alive, 9 becomes alive. It's like I'm loving this. This is just I feel like I'm learning every day. And this only has 2 weeks left, which for some of you probably feels like, oh my God, I'm so glad only 2 weeks left. But I am not one of those people. I'm just like, now what do we do? We go to the reading room and the office hours and Michael Naylor's monthly thing. Okay. Anyway, anybody else want to share on anything? We want to go back to the harmonics, or are we good? Some people view 6 and 7 as like 6, I'm ready, and then 7, I do it. But I don't, I believe that 6 is becoming willing on the tough stuff, the defenses, that ego structure where it defends us, and 7 is that soft, basically, yeah, the areas that I don't even see at all, and it does tie to blind spots because I don't see those. Where did I fall short? Please forgive me for that. Help me to basically be okay with that and relieve me of that, and also help me with all these defenses that just keep cropping up without my knowledge. Michael Naylor, in his alchemy book, right, he talks about this happens like without our permission. These kinds of those defenses happen without our permission. Right, and he talked about even drinking without my permission, and in my case, overeating without my permission, because it happens as part of that defense of the ego. I do guard up and toughen myself in, especially with people that I don't know, and I mean, it's real not in these rooms, because in these rooms, this is where we get to be those things. And I will say that I do have friends that I'll talk to about the kind of stuff I'm learning, and that will look at me like I've completely lost grip with reality. And in reality, I have a grip on reality now, and it's very different. These are still my friends, but they're certainly not the ones that I will talk about any of this stuff with. So this is so cool that I have a place where this kind of growth and this kind of change can be talked about. I just live it out there. I don't talk it out there because, once again, I'm used to the people that look at me like I'm nuts. But in here, I get to talk about it, and then I get to live it out there, which is really nice. And my husband does notice the difference. I mean, big difference in the person that I am day to day, which is such a blessing because I call him Saint Nick, been married to me for 43 years. He deserves the sainthood for sure. But if I'd been the person I am now all that time, which isn't even possible, I think maybe he wouldn't have deserved sainthood, but he does now. So that's good. I want to tell you a little history of Surrender School. all of us, so Joy is the instigator, she started Surrender School, and then put together a board, and I was on that board. And basically, as we sat down and did the mission, all of us came from 12-step programs, and all of us felt like they were necessary and awesome as a beginning, as a start. But there needed to be something more than that, that's organized, but with love. And right. And the whole point was, how do we get beyond that? I use the terminology that, as I continued to work the steps, right? Initially, absolutely necessary. I needed to come on my knees. I needed to be broken like that. I needed that. Maybe everybody doesn't, but I did. But as I continued to work the steps through the years, not working with others still, because that was their journey. But my journey, I kept going deeper and deeper into self-contempt. And I so believe that I cannot hate myself and grow spiritually at the same time. It's as if my higher power says, okay, you can hate yourself or you can grow spiritually. You choose, I'll wait. And I was so tired of hating myself, of this, you're such a loser, that kind of language in my own head. that and so my choice became, continue to hate myself or leave program, because I can't continue to do this. And so Surrender School kind of was birthed from that kind of view, that we needed something a bit more, right? So and to me, Surrender School has been this is eye-opening a lot more. And that actually, Friendly Circle Berlin does the same thing. I think there's other things out there that do as well, but this sense of self-love then allows me to love other people, right? And I mean, it's been said in every religion of the world, right? This isn't like new stuff, but it's new to me. And so I'm really glad you're here, Cheryl, and I'm glad that it's making a difference in your life. And yeah, hang around. And what we'll do, you might put contact information like in the chat. That would be great. And then let's see if we can, and certainly I'm going to encourage you to watch all the videos all the way through, learn about the Enneagram, how it ties to the steps. I have kind of a weird view of the steps, admittedly. And I really discovered that actually did this, even though I love the Enneagram, because I wanted people to hear my view of the steps, which is different than other people's view of the steps. And I'm a big book lover. I love the big book. It is poetry for my soul. But I think that through organization, I'll use that word, it has been corrupted. Is my feel. And then once again, that isn't what Surrender School believes. That is what I believe. And so, but I love the big book, and I love big book studies when they look at it from the perspective that this is how you stop drinking. But beyond that, emotional sobriety is how you live, which is what Friendly Circle Berlin is about, Surrender School is about, Michael Naylor is about, Alan Berger is about, Herb K is about, right? All of that is all about kind of that view of things. And all of us have a slightly different perspective on it. But yeah, for sure. So what happens with the 1, 3, and 5, what they find is if they are disappointed, they need to manage their feelings. So a 1, right, they emphasize what is correct, what is right, organizing, knowing the rules and that kind of stuff. And then they will manage their feelings by doing these things. The others don't do that. That's not what their focus is on when they're disappointed. So that's why. And once again, this came from the wisdom of the Enneagram. And they're basically saying, okay, the positive outlook group, they don't have to, they've managed their feelings. That's not a problem. What they're doing is trying to avoid seeing something because they want to stay positive, right? So what happens with the 2 is they will emphasize their good intentions, not the good outcome, just their good intentions. They try to avoid seeing their own neediness, and they have problem. They overemphasize the needs of others and underemphasize their own needs, right? So the 4, 6, and 8, and the reason they have fears there is because our basic fear rears up and we cannot help but erupt. That is what the reactive is. We are like radioactive. We erupt. And when I taught the sexual 4, the sexual 6, and the sexual 8, actually all 8s are the angriest people you've ever met in your life. It'll be like, where did that come from? Because they are reactive. That fear kicks in and out it blows, right? So does that make sense? And I think, yeah. So, and that is why Michael Naylor, and I asked him when he was going to come and do the book study, I said, do you want people that aren't that type to come to those? And he said, yes, because we all have all the types in us. And if we can feel compassion for that type in ourselves, we can feel compassion for the other types as well. So let's go ahead and say the Serenity Prayer, and then you can hang around for like another half an hour or so.
Thanks for recovering with us.